Most gracious and all-wise God, we come before you, Lord, just saying thank you for this day. Lord, we thank you for the weather that we're receiving right now because someone needs it. We all need your reigning in our lives. And this should be that gentle reminder that we need to have you reigning in our lives. Lord, you're such an awesome God. You're such a magnificent God. You're such a powerful God, and we can't make it without you. Lord, I thank you, bless you, praise you, and magnify you for each person that's on this call. I ask your continued blessings of protection, your continued blessings of prosperity over each family, household, neighborhood, that protection that can only come from you, because man may have a plan to do some harm, but you thwart the plans of the wicked. And for that, Lord, we're just thankful. Lord, for this class today, I ask that you open up our minds and we may be receptive to what you would have us to learn, what you would have us to take in, what you would have us to absorb, and that ultimately you get the praise, glory, and honor that you are due when we share this lesson with others, either through physically sharing or just letting our own light shine. Lord, we bless you, praise you, and magnify you in Jesus' name. Our lesson today starts off a new series entitled, Who is Jesus? And the title of our lesson today is Jesus, the Light of the World. Charles Dickens, in writing A Tale of Two Cities, wrote, "It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief. It was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope. It was the winter of despair." Charles was describing the mood of the world around him at the time that he wrote this. But these words are also describing our time as the time in which our author was writing. Prayerfully, after taking a look at our lesson today, you'll realize that Jesus is the one and the only one who can bring light to a dark situation, a dark world. And despite how things look, he is still and will always be in control. He is still in control. And we also need to be reminded that a brighter day is on the way. Well, the situation for Israel, the kingdoms have split. You have the northern kingdom, which consists of 10 tribes, and you have the southern kingdom, which consists of 2 tribes. Those 2 tribes being Jerusalem and the area of Judah. Judah and Jerusalem. There we go. So, the king of Syria and the king of Israel had joined forces to attack Judah to overthrow the house of David. They wanted to install a puppet king over Judah and force Judah to join the ranks with them and fight against Assyria. Well, King Ahaz, who was the king of Judah, is afraid, and he enters alliance with Assyria and asks Assyria to attack Israel and Syria. Did that happen? That did happen. The Assyrian armies attacked the northern part of Israel and destroyed homes, killed the people, captured others, relocating them hundreds of miles away. The whole area of the land of Zebulun and Naphtali was in ruins, so that this area is called the Galilee of the nations. It was a very dark period for that part of the land. Not only for these people, but eventually all of Israel would be overrun by the Assyrians. And they would turn their war machinery also against Judah. So it was a dark period for Israel. It was a dark period for Judah. And it was really a sad time because the people were living in spiritual darkness. The king of Judah was worshiping idols. The terrible sins were breaking out upon the people. Superstitions, materialism, idolatry, self-indulgence, pride, sensuality, alcoholism, and conceit. Now, was I talking about Israel, Judah, or was I talking about America? Because it all seems to be the same. In any event, Judah and Jerusalem were going to be carried away into Babylon. And the prophet comes with a word of hope. And this word of hope was destined to bring good news that the Messiah would take this dark world and bring it life and light. Now, God will often visit the most hard-headed, hard-hearted, arrogant, ignorant, and despised people with wonderful opportunities to change. Because the offer of salvation is ever so precious. Many people ignored that call. And yet and still, what does God do? He calls them again. He calls them time and time again. The gloom, the despair, the oppression is so vivid in Isaiah's day, is overshadowed by a new light that the prophet sees. And this light is going to appear some 700 years later. The prophet moves from walking in darkness to walking in the light, from oppression to justice, from war to peace. The prophet sees God's world becoming what God had originally intended. He sees light and life, joy and peace, liberty and freedom, because the Messiah will come and bring all these things, all the light and life, joy and peace, liberty and freedom to fruition. The Messiah will come from the heart of God and knows that God is a lover of justice and peace. Now Isaiah sees and believes that that the Messiah is God's answer for this world and its crazy, messed up ills. Isaiah's worldviews and hopes are in the coming Messiah who will save the world, uphold life, establish justice and peace, and turn the hearts of man to God. That is still our hope for today. However, we need to realize that it cannot happen from us. It only can and will happen as it comes from God. And what do we need to do on our part? We need to be ready to speak light into darkness. Now, to understand the full gist of what is going on and the full gist of our scripture passage, I'm going to jump back to Isaiah 8, where God is speaking to Isaiah. And starting at verse 11, God spoke strongly to me, grabbed me with both hands, and warned me not to go along with this people. He said, don't be like this people, always afraid somebody is plotting against them. Don't fear what they fear. Don't take on their worries. If you're going to worry about the holy fear God of angel armies. The holy can either be a hiding place or a boulder blocking your way. The rock standing in the willful way of the houses of Israel. A barbed wire fence preventing trespass to the citizens of Jerusalem. Many of them are going to run into that rock and get their bones broken. They'll get tangled up into the barbed wire and not get free of it. Gather up the testimony, preserve the teaching for my followers. While I wait for God, as long as he remains in hiding, while I wait and hope for him. I stand my ground and hope, I stand my ground and hope. I and the children of God gave me as signs to Israel. Warning signs and hope signs from God of angel armies, who makes his home in Mount Zion. When people tell you, try out the fortune tellers, consult the spiritualists, why not tap into the spirit world, get in touch with the dead? Tell them no. We're going to study the scriptures. People who try the other ways to get nowhere ends up with a dead end. Frustrated and famished, they try one thing after another. When nothing works out, they get angry, cursing first this God and then that one, looking this way and that, up, down, sideways, seeing nothing, a blank wall, an empty hole. They end up in the dark with nothing. Here's where Isaiah 9 comes in. But there'll be no darkness for those who were in trouble. Earlier he did bring the lands of Zebulun and Naphtali into disrepute. But the time is coming when he'll make that whole area glorious. The road along the sea, the country past the Jordan, international Galilee. In other words, there's a time coming when that whole area is going to be upside down. Verse 2, the people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. For those who lived in the land of deep shadows, light, sunburst of light. You repopulated the nation. You expanded its joy. Oh, they're so glad in your presence. Festival joy. The joy of a great celebration, sharing rich gifts and warm greetings. The abuse of the oppressors and cruelty of tyrants, all their whips and cudgels and curses is gone, done away with. A deliverance as surprising and sudden as Gideon's old victory over Midian. The plots of those invading troops, along with their shirts soaked with innocent blood, will be piled into a heap and burned, a fire that will burn for days. For a child has been born for us, the Son of a God for us. He'll take over the running of the world. His names will be Amazing Counselor, Strong God, Eternal Father, Prince of Wholeness. His ruling authority will grow, and there will be no limits to the wholeness he brings. He'll rule from his historic David throne over that promised kingdom. He'll put that kingdom on a firm footing, and he'll keep it going with fair dealing and right living. beginning now and lasting always. The zeal of God of the angel armies will do all this. So, Isaiah is encouraging us with the idea that darkness can never put out the light. The only way darkness can prevail is for the light to go out. And the light, that's the way light is. The darker the darkness gets, the brighter the light becomes. It was a dark time in the land that was occupied by this foreign power, a power which made all kinds of demands on God's people. This has been a dark period for our world as well. We need some light. We need light in view of things such as this lovely, relentless pandemic, the wildfires that are going on, the tornadoes, the hurricanes, the crooked politicians, the school shootings, the police killing black people and brown people, the constant protests, revolts, riots, civil unrest, and now we have a sea of young people who are dying at the hands of each other, dying at the hands of illnesses, and dying at the hands of automobile accidents. As we reflect, so often the darkness seems inescapable. If the darker the darkness gets, the brighter the light becomes. Because our scripture says the people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. So, have you caught the prophet's vision? Do you perceive where he's going? Does the world you imagine look like the world Isaiah foretold? The good news is it will come. Why? Because the zeal of the Lord of hosts will do it. If God said it, guess what? It's going to be fulfilled. He cannot speak a word without the existence of something happening. When he said, "Let there be light," darkness left. Isaiah described the present condition as the people were walking in darkness, which means they were stumbling. They were falling and in constant danger. They were just trying to find their way. And in Matthew's gospel, he describes them as people sitting in darkness that were paralyzed with fear, afraid to stand, move, or go forward. Sounds kind of familiar. It should. Matthew 4:16 says, people sitting out their lives in the dark saw a huge light. Sitting in the dark country of death, they watched the sun come up. And a few moments later is where Jesus is going to come and give his initial sermon. Night doesn't last always. It has to come to pass. So, therefore, you don't need to stop until you find it, because there's a brighter day coming. With darkness, there's confusion, calamity, ignorance, and hopelessness. But the good news is there's a brighter day coming. So we're going to look at a couple of things about God's light, and we're going to be out of here. The first thing is God's light will outshine the present darkness. The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. For those who lived in such the land of deep sorrows, light. Sunburst of light. Jesus Christ came a bright light as a bright light from God, so bright that darkness couldn't overcome it. The darkness has no power to extinguish God's light. John 1 and 5 says, the life light blazed out of the darkness. The darkness couldn't be put out. The good news is darkness cannot conquer light. Darkness has no power. It is simply the absence of light. Darkness is negative, light is positive. All the darkness in the world can be driven back into a single candlelight. The only influence darkness has is to create illusions and inspire fear because the uncertainty and lack of knowledge. But the moment light comes on, guess what? The reality is revealed. Fear is driven back. God's light will always outshine the darkness because a brighter day is coming. And during those dark times, Jesus himself commissions us to shine brightly. Huh? That makes no sense. Well, in the Sermon on the Mount, that's what he says. Matthew chapter 5, starting at verse 14. You are like light for a whole world. A city built on a hill cannot be hid. No one lights a lamp and puts it under a bowl. Instead, it's put on a lampstand where it gives light for everyone in the house. In the same way, here it is, your light must shine before people, so that they will see the good things you do and praise your Father in heaven. So, what is the purpose of light? Shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Notice Jesus says that we are a city that sits on a hill. And so that means we are to shine in the public. Well, that gets to be a problem for some, because we barely want to shine anywhere, let alone in the public. I'm too bashful. Well, that's where you need to be calling on God to give you boldness. Then he said, we are like a lamp, and that gives light to all who are in the house. So we're to shine at home. Now, some of us shine so brightly at home that we get to have a little problem when we get out in the public, because the only place we're known to shine is in the home. But when that light shines, regardless of where it's shining, it expels darkness, which means darkness just has to leave. It entices, it attracts those things that need illumination, and it exposes those things for which they are. Because being a light doesn't always mean you're going to be popular. Being a light doesn't always mean that you're going to be liked. As long as you're doing what your Father set out for you to do, it doesn't matter who you like or who likes you. So, God's light will outshine the present darkness. God's light will transform this present dark world. Not conform, but transform. The shape, in other words, will be changed. Now, I know many of you have seen a caterpillar. Your parents might have been butterflies. But you didn't start off a butterfly. You started off as a caterpillar. I don't know about you, but I've never seen a pretty caterpillar. Seen plenty of beautiful butterflies, but I've yet to see a pretty caterpillar. Some of them are thorny, some of them are prickly, which means that you have to grow into that which God has purposed you to do. Isaiah 9:3-5 says, "You repopulated the nation. You expanded its joy. Oh, they're so glad in your presence. Festival joy. The great joy of celebration, sharing rich gifts and warm greetings. The abuse of oppressors and cruelty of tyrants, all their whips and cudgels and curses, is gone, done away with. A deliverance of surprising and sudden as Gideon's old victory over Midian." By the way, what happened to what happened with Gideon when he encountered the Midianites? Was that a smooth victory? No, it was a mixed match victory that ended up winning. So, the boots of all those invading troops, along with their shirts soaked with innocent blood, will be piled up into a heap and burned, a fire that will burn for days. So, Isaiah reminds many believers that they had faced some great odds before. This is not the first time that you've been helpless. This is not the first time you've been hopeless. And this is not the first time you've been in the dark. Gideon's men, faced with 300 men and over 100,000 Midianites, were defeated as one man. And what was their weapon? Their weapon was light. God didn't tell them to do anything that was really deep. He said, get a light, cover the light, uncover the light, and then shout. God's light will transform the world because His people are no longer sitting in darkness, no longer paralyzed by fear. We don't have to sit in darkness or be in despair. God's people are rising up to break the yoke of slavery, and there's still slavery going on. It's usually in the form of addictions. It's usually in the form of someone trying to oppress, but they have no power over God's power. They're rising up to lift the heavy burden from their shoulders. God's light is within His people and shining through them, bringing light and life to others. Romans 8:27 says, He knows us far better than we know ourselves, knows our pregnant condition, and keeps us present before God. That's why we can be sure that every detail in our lives of love for God is worked into something good. God knew what He was doing from the very beginning. He decided from the onset to shape the lives of those who love Him along with the same lines of the life of the Son. The Son stands first in line of humanity He restored. We see the original and intended shape of our lives there in the Son. So, God can work through things as well as the good things as well as the bad things with equal grace. God can work light and work in the darkness. God can work through politics, economic, and, believe it or not, even an election crisis. Don't allow the present darkness to convince you that there is no light and that it's dark everywhere. Don't allow darkness to obstruct your vision, blinding you from God's hope. Because without hope, there's no future. And God brings hope. This Christmas season brings hope. Having only positive expectation that, hold on, problems are going to end. A brighter day is coming. We will divide the spoils of victory. Ask Elijah. He killed all of Baal's prophets, and then Jezebel sent him into flight. Ask Job, who lost everything. Ask David, who messed up everything. Even John the Baptist got doubtful and about the Messiah, and he kept asking, are you sure you're the one? So, all of those people experience seasons of doubt, doom, and gloom. Yet in every case, God's light, His word, and His peace sustained them all. That's why we are told to take the name of Jesus with you, child of sorrow, child of woe. It will joy and comfort give you. Take it everywhere you go. So, to every believer, God has made us agents of transformation. Just as His Word and Spirit has transformed our lives, it will transform others. When you let your light shine, you brighten the corner wherever you're at. You take that light wherever you go and you let it shine. Now, some of us are on 600 watt. Some of us are barely doing 10. But whatever light needs to be shown, you best believe somebody is going to be attracted to it. And that's where you need to let your light shine. Because Jesus is the way, the truth, and the light. And that light cannot be put out. The Roman soldiers crucified Him. They couldn't put it out. The cross, which was the world of evil, transformed into a symbol of salvation and deliverance. The Roman seal couldn't stop it. The grave couldn't hold Him. He rose with some power in His hands? No, He rose with all power in His hands. And you and I, as believers, have been raised by that same power. So what do we need to do? We need to let our light shine, no matter what wattage you are. So, God's light will outshine the present darkness. God's light will transform this present dark world. And last but not least, God's light will transform our difficulties into testimonies of victory. No test without a testimony. Correction. No testimony without a test. Isaiah 9:5 says, the boots of all those invading troops, along with their shirts soaked in innocent blood, will be piled up into a heap and burned, a fire that will burn for days. And things that were intended to stop God's people will be fuel for them. That should light up a fire. God promised the yoke and the burden will be broken. The staff of cruelty will be removed, and the instruments of war would be fuel for what is warming the fire. The present difficulties of our era will end. The testimony of victory will be fuel for your fire. because once again, a brighter day is coming. Don't believe the reports that all hope is lost. If you've been looking for good news, guess what? Christmas reminds us of the good news of Jesus. Jesus is the light, and the light of God has come. He can turn our mourning into dancing and beauty for our ashes. Psalm 30 verse 11 says, "You did it. You changed the wild lament into whirling dance. You ripped off my black mourning band and decked me with wildflowers." Verse 12 says, "I'm about to burst with song. I can't keep quiet about you, God, my God. I can't thank you enough." When we walk out in the darkness and the light, things look better in the light because things are clearer, things are brighter. Isaiah 61, 1 through 3 says, "The Spirit of God, the Master, is upon me." This is what Jesus read in Matthew chapter 4. When he took the scroll of Isaiah, he said, "The Spirit of God, the Master, is upon me because God anointed me. He sent me to preach the good news to the poor, heal the broken, announce freedom to all the captives, pardon all prisoners." God sent me to announce the year of his grace, a celebration of God's destruction on our enemies, and to comfort all who mourn, to care for the needs of all who mourn in Zion, give them bouquets of roses instead of ashes, messages of joy instead of news of gloom, a praising heart instead of a languid heart. Rename the oaks of righteousness, planted by God to display his glory. So, there are 12 things that we need to note, and we're out of here. First, we need to note that we only can shine if we stay connected. If a lamp is out, the very first thing you need to see is, does it have a bulb? Is the bulb good? If the bulb is good, that means that the lamp is not connected to the power. We can only shine when we stay connected to our power source. Our power source is not our boo. Our power source is not our kids, our grandkids, our great-grandkids. Our power source is God. A brighter day is coming because God's light will outshine the present darkness. God's light will transform this present dark world. God's light will transform our difficulties into testimonies of victory. God will use his church as agents of transformation. The flawed church, yes, he's going to use it. The church is flawed, but Christ is not. The church is a mess because it is made up of messy people. But God can take that mess and make it into a miracle. So God places the responsibility of all of this on the shoulders of Christ. There's no problem too hard. There's no situation too complicated. Jesus is the answer. For a child has been born for us, the gift of a son for us. He'll take over running the world. This is Isaiah 9 and 6. His names will be Amazing Counselor, Strong God, Eternal Father, Prince of Wholeness. His ruling authority will grow, and there will be no limits for his wholeness he brings. He'll rule the historic David throne over that promised kingdom. He'll put that kingdom on a firm footing and keep it going with fair dealing and right living. beginning now and lasting always. The zeal of God of the angel armies will do all this. So his great work will not be left in the hands of the of the Democrats, Republicans, or the Independents. It will not be left in the hands of the Senate, the Congress, or the Supreme Court, thank God. God has the whole world under his control. He doesn't Here's the question. Why doesn't everybody just relax and enjoy his joy and peace? Because remember, the son is going to be born. The important part is the gift, and the gift is going to be his son. The thing about receiving a gift is, the important thing about getting a gift is you have to receive that gift. And it has to be received with thanks. Because many times we get a gift, we ignore it, or it's unappreciated. Sometimes it's criticized, sometimes it's never accepted. And some gifts can spoil if you don't accept them. But our God has no expiration date. John 3:16 and 17 says, this is how much God loved the world. He gave his son, his one and only son. And this is why. So that no one need be destroyed. By believing on him, anyone can have a whole and lasting life. God didn't go to all the trouble of sending his son merely to point an accusing finger, telling the world how bad it was. He came to help, to put the whole world right again. So God has made a brighter day available to all who receive his gift of salvation. It is not God's will that any should perish. Yet, there will be plenty that will. They will choose to sit in darkness, even when the light is there. If you choose to sit in a room that is dark, guess what? That is your choice. So, who is Jesus? Jesus is God's good news. And the good news is a brighter day is coming. The brighter day has come. One of our Christmas songs says, hark the herald angels sing. Glory to the newborn King. Peace on earth and mercy mild. God and sinners reconciled. Joyful, all ye nations rise. Join the triumph of the sides. With angelic hosts proclaim Christ is born in Bethlehem. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Hail the heaven-born Prince of Peace. Hail the Son of Righteousness. Light and life to all he brings. Risen with healing in his wings. Mild he lays his glory by. Born that we no more may die. Born to raise us from the earth. Born to give us second birth. Hark the herald angels sing. Glory to the newborn King. Here is probably my only point to ponder. And this is something for us all to think about. What prevents people from seeing the light that they've been given? Let me rephrase that. What prevents people from seeing the light? Everybody has received a light. What prevents people from seeing the light? Star 6 to respond.
Despair.
All righty. Anybody else?
Trust.
Trust. All righty.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else?
Faith.
Who?
Faith.
All right. Yep. That's a biggie.
Mm-hmm.
Fear.
Fear.
Fear. Oh, mm-hmm.
Anybody else?
I think sometimes people feel like they have done so much bad that how could God love them?
Wow.
So I was maybe it's a
That's
fear.
trust.
Okay.
Trust, yeah.
Trust.
All righty. Now, based on all those answers, what can we do to change that?
Encourage.
Okay.
Share our testimony.
All
There
righty.
you go. That's it.
Is our testimony going to make us look good?
Let our light shine.
Okay.
Now, he also said that the U.S. officials put every possible offer on the table for us to get.
What's our testimony going to do for ourselves?
In this moment. Now, U.S. officials are
Shine a light.
There you go. Sound right.
Prayerfully, it will shine the light, and it will shine the light on him who sent us. Our testimony should not shine the light on us.
Mm-mm.
Got it?
Yes, sir.
Say it again.
Our testimony should not shine the light on us. It should shine the light on him who sent us.
Oh, okay.
We're
Yeah.
to let our light shine so that God is glorified, not
Right.
that we are glorified.
Right.
Got it?
Yeah.
All righty. So, we need to ask God as to what wattage you should use for each situation you encounter with others. There are some times that all you got is a 10 watt. There are some times that God has equipped you with the 1500 watt, but you only need the 10. Other than that, you're going to walk around blinding folks. So you need to ask God, okay, what do I need to do in this situation? You need to let those that need to know the true source of light in the world. Some of us go through that artificial light of the lottery. Some of us go through that artificial light of bingo and gambling and horses and shopping and all those artificial lights, but there's only one true light, true source of light. Share with others that the light of Christ was not extinguished and he was buried. It only got brighter with his resurrection. Also, let others know that giving lets God's light shine effervescently throughout the kingdom of our God. And no matter how you may be feeling, even during this season of distress and grief, no matter how you may be feeling, Always let the good shine through. It can be difficult. Oh my God, it can be difficult. Especially when you're dealing with difficult people. But always let the good shine through. Well, I pray that something has been said that has enlightened you. I pray that something has been said that has brought about a transformation so that ultimately God gets the glory from what you share with others. And I remind you to make sure that you're presenting yourself with opportunities for God to let your light shine, because when you're stuck in the house and there's nobody there, you're not going to be shining too much unless you look for opportunities to let your light shine. Sometimes that means calling somebody that you haven't thought about in a while. And just, hey, how you doing? I've been thinking about you. But I ask you to be on point by doing so. I love you and look forward to hearing from you next week. Our most gracious, we come before you, Lord, just saying thank you. Lord, I thank you for the many lights that you have given each and every one of us. You've given each and every one of us a light to shine, Lord. Lord, I thank you that you've given us opportunities to let our light shine. Lord, I ask that you quicken our hearts, that we may let our light shine regardless of what the situation might be. Lord, I ask that you work with us so that we know how much to let it shine, Lord, so that we don't blind anybody, so that we entice, Lord, so that we attract, Lord, so that we can illuminate those situations that need to experience you. Lord, you're such an awesome God, and we can't make it without you. Lord, there were requests today, and I thank you for each request that has gone forward. Those requests, Lord, are being made because we know that you are our healer. We know that you are our guide. We know that you are our comforter. We know that you are our peace giver. We know that you regulate our minds, Lord. We know that you are in charge, even when it seems like all hell is breaking loose around us, that we need to be reminded to just start praising you for whatever the victory is that we need at that moment. Lord, you are such a gracious God. You love us in spite of ourselves. You're such a loving God because you sent your Son to die for us, Lord. And Lord, we're just thankful. For those requests that were not made, Lord, I'm asking you to move as only you can. There are many that are hurting this time of year, Lord, and they need to experience that peace and comfort that can only come from you. Lord, please continue to allow us to be your light. Allow us to be those vessels that you use to be of comfort to others. We'll be careful to give you the praise. We'll be careful to give you the glory and the honor that you are due. These things we ask in your mighty and majestic Son's name. Amen.
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 Amen.